my name is Shannon Brewer, and I'm a senior attorney with Hill and Ponton. We handle veterans VA disability claims, and I'm here today to just talk to you about a case I've handled and what other veterans can learn from it. One of my all-time favorite clients came into us several years ago with no service-connected conditions at all. He had served in 1956-57 in Korea, and he had suffered from severe frostbite and cold weather injuries. Um, he was having serious arthritis problems with his joints, specifically in his hips and with his circulation. And his doctor had asked him if he'd ever been exposed to extreme cold. And he told the veteran that he thought his disabilities were related to the cold exposure in Korea. This veteran had filed claims for frostbite and his hip conditions, and VA denied them, basically saying, "We acknowledge you had frostbite, but you don't have frostbite anymore." And that's something that all veterans should look at and be aware of. It's a common VA tactic. They look at your file and they say, "Well, you don't have a broken leg now, or you don't have a frostbite. You don't have frostbite now." So they say, okay, whatever your condition is, we deny it without even considering residuals or secondary conditions that you might have due to that in-service condition. So don't be fooled into just accepting what the VA says to you about that. This veteran came to us for help after VA denied him, and we started with what his doctors were telling him, which was, your hips are connected to this cold. And we talked to a cold injury expert, and he indicated that the arthritis in the hips was definitely due to cold injury, as was vein restriction that he was experiencing and cardiovascular problems that he was having. And I just want to say, these facts might not apply to your case. You might not have cold injuries. You might not have frostbite. But the thing that is applicable to all veterans is you need to do your own research, and you also need to consult a medical expert if you can, because we found out that this veteran also had a diagnosis for hemochromatosis, and I didn't even know at the time what that was, but it's a condition that causes iron to build up in your body. And while I didn't see any connection between the vet's cold injuries and that diagnosis, the medical experts did. And it made a huge difference for the veteran in the end. And I will kind of get there with you in a minute. But this veteran's very difficult vein restrictions due to cold injuries were complicating his ability to be treated for that condition as well. The case ended up having to go to the Board of Veterans Appeals, as complicated cases often do. The board granted service connection for the veteran's hip disabilities and cardiovascular disabilities, including the hemochromatosis. While we were working on getting this veteran's rating correct, because VA gave him too low of a rating to start with, which is another thing I would caution you about. You don't have to accept the rating that the VA gives you. They're often going to lowball you. They give you a little bit, see if you'll go away. So you have to be persistent, and you have to know what the rating codes say about your condition. But while we were working on getting his rating where it should be, this veteran was then diagnosed with terminal liver cancer. And we were devastated for the veteran and his family. They were great. They were some of our favorite clients ever. And initially, the news didn't trigger with me that the liver cancer could have anything to do with his cold injuries. But again, I tell you to do your research and talk to medical experts, because while we were working on this, we knew our veterans' ratings were not going to get his wife DIC. He didn't have 100% for 10 years. And it was really important to the client to take care of his wife. And so our team dug in because they really wanted to help these people. And what we found out was that the condition VA had service connected him for, hemochromatosis, we already said it caused iron to build up in the tissue. And it turns out that increases your risk for liver cancer. And through that information, we were able to get service connection for the veteran's terminal liver cancer, and thus DIC benefits for his wife after he died from that liver condition. I'm not a doctor, neither was my client. And I don't think either one of us would have thought that liver cancer could be connected to frostbite 50 years later. And the reason I'm telling you this story is to honor our wonderful client and his wife, but also to remind our veterans to think outside the box. Look for the connections, talk to the medical experts, ask questions of your doctors, and make sure you are informed about what is possible. Thank you for your service.